Namaskar, this is Shiba Rakesh welcoming all of our listeners to a fresh edition of the English program. Here's wishing all of you a bright, prosperous and happy 2026. As we begin afresh with the new year, here's looking forward to new and better things in life. One important aspect is the continuum of motivation within us. A new year brings in countless new resolutions and promises, but come in February and then March and then April and so on, and we say, oh, we'll do this later. And sometimes lack of action or simple procrastination has rather serious consequences. So that we stay motivated right from here and now, we have invited Dr. Viveik Pandit to our studios. Dr. Pandit is a communicator and trainer who focuses on the building of emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, and development of critical thinking skills, along with creative capacities in individuals and teams. All this with almost 2 decades of hands-on management experience. Dr. Pandit, I welcome you to the studios of Akashvani, Lucknow.
Thank you so much. I feel welcomed, Dr. Shiba.
Let me ask you the first question. What is motivation?
Okay, you must have heard this expression, I am not that motivated, or I feel demotivated. These are some of the expressions that are very common around us. So I'll begin by saying vehemently that all of this is a myth. And I'll tell you why. Motivation is a process. It is just not a word or expression or just a way of life, but it is a process. Like we build our mental health, our physical health, likewise we need to build motivation. And the first step of motivation actually begins from this aspect of visualization, because all of us want to achieve different things. It could be as simple as waking up early in the morning, wanting to play the guitar, losing weight. It could be any aspect of our aspiration, that our desire that we are looking at. So before we come to the motivation part, we actually need to imagine that thing happening to us. Very important for us to actually visualize, I want to be rich, I must feel being rich. So that imagination becomes the first point of the expression called motivation. We must begin to send messages to us. It's a very scientific way of looking at things. Whatever we want to do, we must begin to imagine that, visualize that happening to us.
Already.
That becomes a very positive trigger for each one of us to actually begin to work on our motivation.
That has a lot of resemblance, I would say, Dr. Saab, with the quality or the ingredient of manifestation that a lot of us talk about these days, talking to the universe and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So you have stolen my second line, which is, what are the messages that we are giving to ourselves? And that forms the key to motivating ourselves. Number one, the visualization. You visualize yourself as one, as an author, as a writer, as a lyricist or whatever. And then begin to give yourself those positive messages. And then you see what happens to you. These two things, they become a very strong trigger for you.
Dr. Pandit, you just spoke about some internal sources of motivation for our listeners. Are there some external ones also that we need to think about?
Barriers which an individual faces, so when it comes to motivation, is number one, lack of clarity. There are 2 C's involved: clarity, lack of clarity, and the next is comparison. Most of the times we are comparing ourselves with others.
Right.
And the moment we begin to do that, we fall into that trap of complaining or feeling that I am not capable enough to do certain things, that the other person is more capable or the other person has more capacity, resources. So stop comparing yourself. Every individual is a different entity and they are undergoing different treatment from the environment. So you have to focus on yourself. You have to focus on your own clarity. Then your job, the entire process becomes very easy.
How to keep oneself motivated, especially on things and projects that are uninteresting or, let's say, very repetitive. Maybe this has some common points with what you have just shared with us. But since I'm talking about projects, like if we are working in a company or we are working on a project, some things are repetitive in life and we are like, okay, fine, I was motivated till point 5, point 6 comes and here I am. go bang.
All
How
right.
to avoid that?
Okay, so a very relevant question has been posed. Once we have the visualization, the important aspect which follows this is action. Naturally, we confuse motivation, that motivation comes first and then we need to do action. In fact, it is the reverse. Action needs to come first. I might continue to dream of becoming a writer, and my dreams are going to remain a dream. I'm dreaming myself of a slim individual, of losing weight, but I'm doing nothing about it. Action has to come first. So action is always followed by motivation.
This is something like the chicken came first to the egg. We, how do we act without being motivated?
Absolutely. That has to be there. We have to take the action because we have visualized ourselves. We are sending the right messages to ourselves, but we are not acting upon it.
Right.
It will be the end of your story.
Okay.
The moment you begin to take those action, it is then that motivation comes into the picture. Because
Right.
that is going to give you certain results. I'm not saying that all of them will be positive, but the results will begin to come, they'll bloom around you. Now, as a smart individual, you can see the picture or begin to see the picture for yourself. You just asked me a question as, things have become mundane, repetitive things. How do I keep myself motivated?
Right.
How do we sustain our motivation constantly? So that happens once you begin to take those actions, those steps towards ensuring that whatever you have visualized comes true. And the moment you begin to do that, results begin to happen around you. You develop a muscle memory of repeating yourself.
Dr. Pandit, while you're motivating me and motivating the listeners towards doing better things in life, I would like to bring in the Bhagavad Gita here, because while Lord Krishna was giving so many beautiful pieces of advice to Arjun, the young fighter who was caught in a quagmire of thoughts and indecisiveness, and he was not able to move forward, there came in Lord Krishna and he talked about the fruits of action, and he talked about action. He motivated Arjun to take action despite the fact that he was not able to do it. Any comments on that for our listeners?
Dr. Shiba, you have actually picked up a brilliant aspect of human development, and I'm very glad that you have done it. Procrastination, a state of confusion, all those things which make us vulnerable is very natural. This happens to each one of us. Nobody is perfect, and nobody is without these so-called stains. So it is very natural to be in the state where Arjun was in the Bhagavad Gita. But look at the message which Krishna gives us. He is totally focused on doing, on the action part, on the karma part.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
He is also provoking Arjun, pick up the arrow, and there is a task to be done. And he too is constantly telling Arjun that you do not have to worry about the outcomes. You have to focus on doing your bit. And this is the message which motivation is constantly telling us. Take that action, take that action. Do not worry about the consequences because they are not in your hands.
Absolutely.
What is in your hand is that action. And believe me, the moment you begin to take those steps towards fulfilling your desire, your ambition, things begin to happen. They might not be to your taste. That can happen. But the fact remains that the outcomes are being triggered because you are taking those actions.
Certainly.
And once I say that you need to take those actions, now as a smart individual, you need to transform yourself. You need to change your strategy. You need to change your attitudes also. It's a constant work on yourself. And at the same time, as you keep on moving, you become resilient to change. You become more adaptable to change. You don't bother about the consequences. You are in a mode. So you need to sustain motivation, and in order to sustain motivation, you need to follow it up with a lot of action.
Action, yes. So listeners, if you're willing to lose weight in the year 2026, don't look any further and start right away. Don't get attached with the results, as Dr. Pandit is telling us, because results are bound to come once you start with your action. Talking about teamwork, as heads of our workplace situations, even remotely, we do come across people who struggle seem unengaged, or are simply nonchalant and unproductive. How can one motivator inspire such people?
One report card that each one of us carry and should carry, the assessment part. You can always assess yourself in a manner, and we always know, in case I can use a bit of Hindi here, कि हम कितने पानी में हैं. Everybody knows that. So another important aspect which is related to motivation is the feel factor. How do I feel about you? You just asked me a question previously that things become mundane. So that feel tells us, it is constantly telling us whether we are getting the right results out of our action or not. So be sensitive to the feel that you are getting in any situation. Likewise, when we are operating in a team, each one of us is giving out our messages to the other person, and collectively that needs to be transformed. And that is what the idea of a teamwork is, when we are on the same page at the same time. Every individual emits a feel.
A vibe, we would say.
Absolutely. Depending upon that vibe, we need to adjust ourselves. And every team also has a leader. Although each team member is a leader as well, here the role of the team leader becomes very important.
Crucial.
Because he understands the vibe which every individual is generating and emitting, and based on those vibes the corrections need to be done. So it is all about actions being taken, and then corrective actions as well, because you need to constantly adjust and change, because things do not remain in the same position constantly.
This has been a beautiful conversation, Dr. Viveik Pandit. Any special message for our listeners that you would like to give?
One specific message which I keep on giving to every individual that I meet, although it is said that we should not be selfish, but I want every individual to be selfish.
Yes.
Specifically with the intent of working on oneself. Selfish not to the other person,
Right,
but
right.
be selfish to yourself,
Yourself.
and with yourself.
That is indeed a beautiful message, because as I always say to my listeners and to the people around me, that if we look at the Sanatan Dharma, there is nothing more selfish and self-indulgent as that. Because while we work on ourselves, we work for the other person. And the more we work for the other person, the more we are working for ourselves. So this is a beautiful message, Dr. Saab. It was a pleasure having you in the studios of Akashvani, Lucknow. And listeners, I hope you enjoyed the conversation we had with Dr. Viveik Pandit in the English program today with regard to motivation. This is a new year, and I hope it's scintillating and it's bright and it's happy and it's glowing for you. But tons of motivation and lots of beautiful action in the pipeline. Thank you so much, Dr. Viveik, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sheba, for having me.